So, welcome, Wendi, to the Heart Centered Life podcast. Wendi, you're an entrepreneur, you're a published author, you're a precision wellness specialist, a health advocate, a food and supplement formulator, and a hope expert. You're going to have to tell us what a hope expert means in a little bit. But I want to say thank you for coming on to be with us. I know you're super busy, and being able to spend this time with us, we're so thankful and grateful. Wendi is going to talk to us today about optimal wellness for the busy professional. So thank you, Wendi, for coming onto the show. Why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're so passionate about what you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me, by the way. I really appreciate it, and I'm so excited, and I really love the concept of what you're doing. I think it's so needed, more so than people realize, It's that life essence that I think is missing from people's lives. So thank you for doing this. Basically, I've been in the health and wellness industry since I can remember. I've always really loved people, always, relationships, and also science. I love the human body. I think it's miraculous, and it just does super cool things. Obviously, when I started out being very young, I was still in high school, so it was a fun experiment. It was it was fun to be strong. I really liked to be in the gym, and I thought, this is so cool to feel this level of strength and to feel like I can do anything. And that emerged over time into more supplement coaching and nutrition coaching and personal training as well. I did a little bit of fitness competitions, which was just mostly so I could dance and do the things that I used to do when I was younger.
Yes.
And then I got very, very sick, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on, and that really shifted my perspective as far as what is this information that's available, because I was one giving it, right? I was one that was helping people learn about their health, and I realized I was not qualified, and I don't know, and I didn't know at that time what level of qualification is really enough, and are we doing a good job as, whether it is personal trainer all the way up to top medical, professional, do we have enough? Are we ever really qualified? And how do we make sure that at whatever level we operate, we're learning constantly, so that we're staying ahead of the curve to give people the information that they need? And I really had to dig deep for over 7 years to figure out what was going on with my body, how to heal my body. Would my body even actually heal? What are some myths that I learned as a personal trainer and nutritionist that I knew different now? And how could I take all that information and make sure that people were able to receive it, that it was available to them, and that it made sense to them, so that it was easy and applicable to their lives?
Well, that's
pretty much in a nutshell.
Right. So let's dive right in. You say that you were diagnosed with this medical condition. And from what I've read and from my conversation with you, it's as if you managed to heal yourself, because the prognosis wasn't really good when the doctors told you that you were not going to recover. Can you talk a little bit about that and the science behind, how you managed to overcome that diagnosis?
Sure. So it took actually maybe 2.5 years for a causation to be found. So that was the biggest hurdle, but also the most wonderful gift, because it gave me 2.5 years of researching every condition, everything that could possibly be wrong. So through the process, I was trying everything. I was trying more traditional medicine as far as Western medicine, seeing a lot of specialists. And I was also at some point kind of shifted and started incorporating more traditional Chinese medicine and holistic medicine and naturopathic medicine. It wasn't until maybe a year or so of implementing those items that they found out that I had late stage Lyme disease with multiple other autoimmune conditions kind of stacked on top of that. And so it was an approach that was very holistic, and that I utilized every expert I could find to help me navigate. So I would say that it was more about finding the right team of people and mentors and physicians who really understood the human body. And that, in all honesty, was a very difficult team to find. It was hard to find people who didn't mind my why, because everything was why. I'm eating really well, and I exercise all the time, and I'm 25, 26 years old. Why is it happening? And it was because of those people that I was able to utilize the different modalities that they offered within their respective fields and specialties, that I was able to really beat it. And I would say the core of that was specialists who understood that the immune system is really designed to take care of us, to look after us, to make sure that any invaders that don't belong are handled properly, which also means that organs and glands and hormones need to also be very much in balance. And if all of those things can become balanced and be treated, be supported, the body will really do the work. So I hate to take credit away from my body, because my body is what did it. My body is what it's been designed to do these things. And what I had was a great team of experts and people who understood the power of the body and didn't mind my relentless questioning about the whys and the hows and so on. So I did everything from IV therapy in a naturopathic clinic and different types of therapies there that had to do with, really cleaning the blood and supporting the liver and supporting my kidneys and all the glands that were previous to that shutting down, because I had been told by multiple doctors that best case scenario would have lifetime disability. And so they weren't even thinking it would be beyond 6 months at that point. So the fact that I was able to support all those systems, bring them back up, utilizing nutrients, micronutrients, macronutrients, herbs, nature, and when necessary, some prescriptions, because that's something that I think a lot of holistic
doctors
will say, there's a reason for all things under the sun. And at many different times we might need one or the other. So I want to make sure that gets included, because there was part of it where I needed some prescription medications to help me move the system. And so really it's a very broad story, in that there was a lot of things that came into play in order for me to be sitting here today.
Well, that's amazing. I know the Chinese traditional medicine a little bit because I grew up with that, and I understand what you're saying about having things in balance. Making sure that you're eating right, but making sure that, and I like the way that you are saying that you can actually trust the body to take care of itself. Only if we only if we put the body in the right conditions, that will allow it to thrive.
Yes.
It sounds as if you've done so much work in the wellness industry because of that. And I was just reading your profile, that you work with different demographics and with people in different situations, right? Like extreme athletes or like children in Montessori school, to bring out their interest in wellness.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about why wellness is so important, even for people who are generally healthy, like your 3 or 4 year old Montessori child, 3 or 4 year old child, or your athlete, who's not confronted with the problem of, oh no, my body is failing me. Why do we need to think about wellness at this, ever?
Sure. I love this question because I see it as an investment, and I've found over time that especially busy professionals, especially people who are operating at their peak level or their optimal level or the highest of levels, are really the ones who will grasp that the concept of investing in oneself, because we will do things like get car insurance, and we're not anticipating a car accident. We don't go every morning, in our cars and get all uptight because we think it's going to happen today. But part of that also, I think, is because we know that there's insurance there, and we know that we've taken the steps to put in place what would be necessary in the event. So I think the mindset is one that we already understand, but it's just rarely applied to our health, right? So when you have, say, an elite athlete who is performing at a peak level, I find that they're more interested in how do I move the needle just this much more, because that gives them an edge for competition. But in the process, if you do it holistically, where you take care of all the systems, it's amazing how much the needle will actually move when you're supporting the glands and you're supporting the organs and you're creating new mitochondria, and all the things
I like that. Yeah.
Minimal, like a cellular level. When you go microscopic, when you treat people microscopically or you work with them microscopically, and you see them as a collection of cells, and what happens if that collection is each individually performing optimally, that's when you start to see a major shift for them. But it also injuries and a flu can easily knock out a professional athlete from training in maybe the most important year of their lives.
Right.
And those things are unpredictable, similar to the analogy of a car accident.
Right.
You might not even be driving your car, somebody just might steal it.
Right. Yeah.
You may not be doing anything wrong. Lyme disease, I didn't do anything wrong. It was just, it's something that happened that I really couldn't have prevented. So even in those instances, for a professional athlete or for somebody who's just going 100 miles an hour a day and seems to be moving along fine, it makes sense to proactively look at their body and the systems at play to make sure that they're not going to get tripped up at some point down the road. It's really an investment in themselves. And for children, I think it's so important to teach our children about how cool they are. And it runs across every aspect of it, right? So how cool they are in how they think and see the world, and really nurture their whys and nurture their questioning and help them to find the best questions and to problem solve. And I think, from a mental standpoint, that's important. And also understanding their emotions. Why do they feel sad? What even is sad? I never felt that before. And mad, joy and all the things, and fostering those emotions for them. And then also introducing to them, the power of food and what food does for their body and why it matters if they put this in or that. Because what I've found as a Montessori school teacher for a brief moment of my life, when kids know why, they are so much more willing and excited to apply it. And when they know their bodies
empowered.
For sure. They just get so excited. And when they're little, 2, 3, 4 years old, they're just now discovering at that point that they're a separate entity than their mother. And they are trying everything, as I'm sure you know, and a lot of people listening know, are trying everything. And that is when it is so important to really show them that their body is like a great friend of theirs, and their body is there for them, and it's only theirs and it only belongs to them. And that encourages everything from them playing and choosing how to use their body, and when they jump, going, oh my gosh, like it's so cool that I just did that. So that later in life, when some of the other challenges that they're going to come across, the stuff that we are learning now about social media and the stuff that these children are going through in in self-image and seeing other children, seeing other people live a life that is filtered. The best way to proactively even approach that from a healthy mindset and emotional standpoint is to give them the tools to go, no, this belongs to me and this is only mine, and I'm cool with that because my body and I have been hanging out for a while, and I like it. And I think that is yet to be seen, the power of that, only because there hasn't been a lot of intentionality behind that, especially like in a larger movement. So proactive, I think, no matter which way you look at it or what demographic, it's something that will resonate and will also really encourage not just prevention of illness or disease, but encourage what is my potential.
Right.
How do I even know if I haven't put in place the things that will show me? And I think that's more the mindset that I like to work on, because I'm not fear-based. You know, I'm very much about hope. So
yeah, I like the idea that you can invest in your future through decisions that you make today. And it sounds as if you're saying that if we take care and make sure that we are well today, we can prevent a lot of the eventualities health-wise that we might come across in the future. And you know, in the past couple of weeks, we've heard so much about the coronavirus, and it sounds as if you're saying that if we do everything that we can at this point to make sure that we are as healthy as possible, you know, whatever health concerns we may come across down the line, it's kind of you know, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll at least have done everything we could so that we minimize or mitigate the risk, right?
Right, exactly.
The risk of it. And I think anybody would do that for pretty much everything in their life, their children, their family, their finances. So it just makes sense that we would take the same approach and the same mentality around our health.
Right. And I know that you spend a lot of time with nutrition. You know, you design supplements, and you have your own nutrition company, I think. How much does nutrition play a role in this plan, you know, this insurance that you're talking about? And what does good nutrition look like?
It plays a huge role. It plays a huge role. I put only as much emphasis on it as I think that the individual can handle, and I'll expand on that a bit. I specialize in precision wellness, so I'm very much about the individual, everything from the person's genetics and ancestry all the way up to what is your goal? Where would you like to see yourself in a year? And most people are not sick that I work with, which is wonderful. I'm so thankful for that. But it's about going, what is that person's budget? What is their not only financial budget, but their time? What do they have access to? What part of the world do they live in? Are they in a rural area in middle America and they don't have a Whole Foods and a Sprouts? Well, all those things need to be considered, because if I create or were to say to you today, oh, well, you know, food is number one, and if you don't get it right, you know, all bets are off, because that would steal somebody's hope, because their situation doesn't allow for them to do maybe what I would say is ideal.
Right.
But that being said, nutrition plays a significant role. Just scientifically, it is our provider of minerals and our nutrients, and it is antioxidants, and it is fatty acids, and it is all of these things that make our cells healthy and functional, and our blood move. And I mean, it is the foundation of the human. It is. So it's very important. But I think that it's more about being honest and realistic with people and going, what's best what's best for you, and how do we incorporate that for you?
And so most of our audience are really busy people, busy um, lawyers, entrepreneurs, medical professionals. And I guess medical professionals will understand the nutrition part of the equation. But for the rest of us who may not be that aware, we know that antioxidants are good. We know that it's good to eat fiber. We know that we should have our veggies. What are some tips you could give the busy person about taking care of the nutrition side of the equation?
Sure. That's probably one of the easiest things to help advise, because it's as simple as stay as close to nature as possible.
Okay.
And that's something that, I can always argue every case on both sides, right? As you could say, oh, well, if I just go to the produce section and I can't afford organic everything, or it's not within my budget to do so, then I'm eating GMOs. But if I buy a packaged product that's non-GMO verified, then at least I don't have GMOs. So I'm going to buy all the packages. So that would be still, in my opinion, not as close to nature as possible.
Okay.
To stay as close to nature as possible, in which you are consuming foods that speaks your body's language. And your body can understand and goes, oh yeah, from a evolution standpoint, I know this apple, or I know this avocado. I've seen this before. I know what to do with it. It's funny, it might have these other things in it. I'll have to deal with that later. But this makes sense to me. When you get packaged foods, when you get things that are processed, that have been put through multiple different phases, which I'm in the food industry, so I know how many different phases there are from farm to table when it comes to a packaged good. A bulk of them anyway. It's easier to say, just stick with nature. If you're trying to grab something on the go, you want to make sure that you have food nourishment during the day that's quick. I mean, the produce section it just can't be beat. It just can't be beat. And it might not seem like an apple is going to be enough or an avocado is going to be enough, but it is significantly more nutrient dense than what you might get in a packaged good. So whenever I shift people from the package back to the produce, for 70% of their diet at least, they're so much more full and satisfied than they ever thought possible. They thought, well, that's not going to be enough. I'll be starving. And to have those things with them and in their, their drawers in their office or in their car while they're driving around has been successful 10 out of 10 times for people, because they are able to continue throughout their day with actually more energy than they thought possible, with actually more satiety than they thought possible, because their body it's not just full in its stomach, it's not. And that's the difference between being hungry and full, is are you actually nourished?
That's a great way to think about it. So would you consider nuts close to nature, or would you consider that processed?
Yeah, no, I think that nuts are, I think ideally, and I'm also very much about supporting local farmers. I'm about supporting your local areas. So I always encourage people, especially with kids, go to the farmers markets. If there's not a farmers market, find a farm. And whatever they do, that means it's growing in the soil. That means it's going to be similar to your microbiome because it's where you live. So it's going to be really nourishing to your system, but it's also very supportive to farmers. So I think that if you're going to do nuts, get them as local as you can. I am an advocate of non-GMO foods and organic foods. Again, it's just one less step the body has to work through.
Yeah.
I would say nuts, seeds are amazing. Yeah. Just amazing. Microgreens, sprouts, broccoli sprouts. Oh my gosh. Like the benefits of broccoli sprouts alone will shift somebody's overnight. Like it's just really incredible how much power is in some of these things that are in the
I
produce
love
section.
sprouts. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay, so that's nutrition. Stay as close to nature as possible because that's how our body can relate to that.
Yeah.
Okay. What are other ingredients in this insurance plan?
Oh, so well, I do think that supplementation is helping us. It's sometimes difficult to get as many nutrients as we need from just our food, especially if we're busy. Because if I'm going to quickly nourish myself, it may not have been enough of this vitamin, but it had a lot of these vitamins. Let's say you get an orange or whatever, and you're all the vitamins and so on, but maybe you're lacking, some minerals or something. So supplementation, I think, is really great. Again, there's some, especially now, there's so many great companies who are really trying to do things well and lean more towards multivitamins that are more whole food based. So when you look at the back of the label, there's all of these foods and fruits and veggies on the back that have been incorporated into these capsules or these gummies. So you're getting all of the nutrients from whole foods. Mm-hmm. I think that is really important. I think it's really a wonderful thing to add in, especially because it's hard to get as many nutrients as we do need. Mm-hmm. I love things like colostrum. I think colostrum is wonderful, but it's something that you probably aren't going to go get from your food or from your farmer's market. So colostrum is a wonderful supplement to add in, and I am also a huge fan of NADH, which is like supportive of the powerhouse of every cell that you have, and it's something that as we age decreases. So it's something that we can support directly. And then I also love things like chlorella and spirulina and some of these green things that nobody's going to want to chew on ever. So in those instances, I think supplementation makes sense, especially because science has evolved in such a miraculous way, and it's moving so quickly right now that we're able to really harness some of nature's greatest gifts into a capsule or into a food supplement that we otherwise would never get to experience or have enough of to really see the benefit. So supplementation, I do think, makes sense to some extent.
So when you talk about supplementation, I know there's supplementation in capsule form, but you would include things that we put in smoothies and all that, right? Powdered supplements.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And again, even in those instances, I'm still a huge advocate of staying as close to nature as possible, making sure that those powders are being processed by or manufactured by reputable companies who are ethical in their standards. And usually when something is more expensive, it's not necessarily the industry trying to see if they can, pull the wool over your eyes. It typically is because an ingredient or two, or maybe the entire ingredient spectrum, is significantly more quality, higher quality, less processed, less fillers. So you're getting more for your money, so you can use less, it'll last longer. Okay. I do really believe that if you're going to use any powders, make sure that, or capsules for that matter, any type of supplementation, that you're going to use something that is not going to be a waste of your money. Going back to the same investment analogy, is that about investing in yourself. So even if it's a little bit more costly, it's going to be better for you if the company is really working hard behind the scenes to make sure that everybody's treated fairly from farmer to consumer. So I think that is important to mention as well.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we have nutrition, we have supplements. Is there anything else we should think about? I know you mentioned movement before we spoke, but in terms of things that we put in our body, is there anything else we should think about?
Water,
yeah.
I think water is something that we really need to pay more attention to in our source of water, and and again, it's just like the food industry. Our water is being processed to some extent in which, when we're getting it, it's hardly nourishing to our bodies. It manages thirst, but what is it doing? We are primarily water. So when we're choosing our water, which are we choosing, and how is it actually helping us, and is it fulfilling the obligations that water has to us? And I think that's one area that people might overlook, because it's become very easy for us.
Yeah.
You know, we'll just use the filter, or we'll just use the plastic bottle in the break room, and we just don't think too much about it. But it's another area that when the water gets optimized for people, that their energy levels just, I mean, even in the colors that they see and how they process information, it just shifts, because the water is fulfilling the obligation of the body, which is really important.
So can you talk a little bit more about how to choose water that is optimal? Because to me, water is just water, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, it's going to go back to my original belief and philosophy that go back to nature as close as possible. So spring water, especially something that is right from a spring, that would be ideal, because you're getting water that is coming from the core of the earth, and there's everything within it that we need. It's moving, so it's structured. The molecular structure of the water is similar of the body in that space. Anything like that's the way that the water runs, it does something to the structure of the water, which is a very fascinating but lengthy conversation. So anybody who wants to look more into that, just Google or research a bit about structured water and what that is and why that matters, because it's really beautiful and significantly profound. There's a place you can actually go online called findaspring.com, I believe. I'm not sure if it's .com or .org, but I will look it up for you. And it'll show you where there's springs around your home, all across the organization that has developed a map system of all these springs. And it's a very interesting experience, if not just for one time to go collect your own water. There's something really beautiful about that work and appreciating what water is, and
love this. Yeah.
with nature in that way. And then, oh my gosh, when you taste it,
there's no going back. Yeah. Okay.
You get some jars and collect some water, and then if that's not an option, which I know it's not, especially for busy professionals, there are companies that have been putting together delivery services for spring water in glass, and will teach you how to store it and make sure that you have it proper. So it's just as easy as going to the filter from whatever other unnamed water company that's in plastic.
Yeah.
Convenience, it's just a little more expensive, and it just might require a little bit more research for your local area. And then next up from that would be bottled water in the grocery stores that are in glass, usually a darker glass, like a darker green. Those ones are maintaining more of their integrity of their water, and they have been less processed. So there's a couple of different levels to go about it.
Oh, that's so neat. And maybe you can give us some links to some of these companies that I can add into the show notes below. Yeah, that would be great. Okay, so we know we have nutrition, we know that we have supplements, we know that we need spring-fed water. Anything else that besides these three that we should add into our body before we talk about things like movement and sleep and all that?
I really think that if you can get the food, the nourishment down and the water down, I think you're pretty close to nature at that point.
Oh my goodness, I love this. Okay, so we put in the right things into our body. We make sure that we're putting in food and nutrition and all that is going to support our body and make it perform at its most optimal level.
Yes.
Right. And once we get there, then the next thing we need to do to make sure that we have this insurance is, I know you said movement.
Yes.
Yes. Can you talk about that?
Sure. And I love to call it movement, because sometimes people, they're just not exercisers, you know, they're like, I don't really want to go to the gym, I don't have time.
Right.
And when the industry calls those excuses, it bothers me, because movement is supposed to be a natural, like think about when you were a child and it was
Yeah.
the bell was, it was time to go outside. We didn't send them to treadmills, you
Right.
know. We didn't flip on the light switch of the gym inside the school. Everybody go exercise now. They just moved,
Right.
you know, moved. And some of us, we moved by running off our energy back and forth across the playground. Some of us swung from bars and hung upside down. And some of us, you know, pumped our legs and were swinging. To me, it's about movement and what feels refreshing to the individual. And that might be a hike. That might be a walk around in the morning when the sun is coming.
Ride. Yeah.
It might be a bike ride. If you can get outside to move, that is the best. That is the best thing to do. It doesn't matter how many calories burned or any of that stuff necessarily until you need to get goal specific, perhaps. But in general, just adding in movement, even if you're busy during the day and you've been, you know, stuck inside and you have 5-10 minutes to get outside and just take a brisk walk, that to me is the most important thing to incorporate without having to worry about,
Mm-hmm.
you know, well, did my heart rate get up, or let me count my steps. Like, I think a lot of those things, although we do like to, you know, label our stuff, I think that those things take away from the holistic benefit of movement. It's supposed to be about clearing the mind and refreshing the spirit and breathing the air and just moving ourselves from screens. Because if you go from office to gym, you're really in the same environment. You're still looking at screens. You're still breathing stagnant air. So I mean, movement in the sense that is most natural for the individual, similar to what you might have done as a child, that is a major key factor in just experiencing optimal wellness.
And I love what you say, because it, you know, when someone tells me, okay, we need to go and exercise now, it takes the joy out of everything. You know, it's like, oh, I have to, right? But yesterday it was such a pretty day. We were out, you know, we were walking up a hill, and my daughter ran and she said, run after me. You know, there is so much joy in that compared to I have to get on this treadmill and I have to burn all these calories up or else, you know?
Yes, yeah.
And I love it.
And the body's listening. And that's something that Dr. Bruce Lipton has incredible work on this. And so anybody listening who wants to dig deeper into this particular thing I'm about to say, Dr. Bruce Lipton is the one, and he has many, many books.
Okay.
Biology is potentially the best one.
Okay, I'm going to get his name from you again, and we're going to put that in the show notes.
Okay, no problem. So he, I've always kind of had this thought that, you know, our bodies are listening. You know, so when we're thinking something, our bodies are not emotional. They're just waiting for instruction. You know, what should we do? and whatever we say is what it's going to do, because it's for us. You know, so if we say, oh, now I have to go to the gym and I'm, you know, now I have to burn all these calories, like the mental feeling that we have of like, oh, that took all the fun out of it. So too does our body feel that way about it.
Yeah.
And even thinking like, well, this isn't going to do anything. I'm just walking around the block for, 20 minutes. But it's like, did you hear that, everybody? This isn't going to do anything. You know? So it's more about going, let's just really enjoy what we have and get the joy out of it. Let's get the fun out of it. And our bodies, you will be shocked at how our bodies respond to something that feels free
and
versus
good,
something regimented in a way that we're really anticipating a specific result from. The body just responds differently. Our bodies are listening. So whatever it is, whatever perception you're going to have about the situation you're about to do, your body's like, got it, noted. We're doing that. And if it's positive or negative, it's not emotional. It's just waiting for instruction.
That's so good. That's so good. But the one thing that I did realize is that when you're out in the open and you're doing things, right, and you're moving around, you don't end up, or I don't end up the day as tired as I do when I go to the gym, or make myself exercise,
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it has to do too with, and depending on how the gym is set up, but gyms are, they're all fluorescent lighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are just energy sucks in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
It's under fluorescent lighting all day long, and then
Yeah.
you're exerting physical energy under them. You're expending, your energy expenditure is significantly different than if you're getting energy from the sun.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yeah. So when you're outside, you're absorbing the energy, and you're kind of like containing it, right? And then when you're out on the treadmill and in this gym under fluorescent light, you're making yourself work, and all this energy is coming out of you. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Anything else about movement before we move on to? I know you said sleep is really important, but before we move there.
I think just on the topic of movement, I also feel like professionals who are at desks, making sure that they are standing when possible, getting standing desks, asking your company, asking the people, or man, what a cool thing if somebody listening is the owner of a company who has a lot of individuals at desks. Invest in, I don't know, they're less than $100, but you can get a stand just for the desk that goes up and down, and the employee can stand and or sit during the day. And that makes such a huge difference. It doesn't need to be as crazy as a treadmill desk or a bike desk, but moving up and down throughout the day. I don't sit when I'm at my desk ever, not in my home office and not in my other offices. And what I have found to be very true for myself and many other people is that when you're standing, you are in a different spot cognitively. You are more focused. You are not drifting out. It's like so easy once you sit to lose focus and to feel comfortable, or to maybe not even be able to get comfortable, and then you can't stay focused. So just a simple adding of that particular component to your day, I think it's also movement. And you'll find too that suddenly you're like doing squats in the middle of it, and you're like, why am I doing this? Because you're standing, and there's just a natural movement that's happening. So things like that, incorporating stuff into corporate entities and corporate centers where people are allowed to move during the day. Maybe they have 2 different workspaces that they can go to. One, it's more where they could sit on the floor,
maybe,
cross-legged, and sit in a way that they're stretching a bit, and then go back to where they're standing a bit. That, to me, if we could do that more often, I think that we would see our health of Americans increase significantly. I love
that. I love that. Yeah, so that, I think that's something that can be quite easily incorporated, right? I mean, for listeners who are listening in, especially, I think lawyers, we tend to be desk bound a lot. I mean, we run off the court and all that, but when we're in the office, we're kind of desk bound, and the fluorescent lighting and everything is pretty much stagnated. So I like the idea of more like a communal area, or like an area where you could just stretch out.
Yes.
Maybe Google is a good place or a good model to follow, right?
Sure. Google, Facebook, some of these tech companies are really able to incorporate some great concepts for people to feel
creative.
I mean, it's intentional because people are going to be there longer because they are to escape. Because they do have community areas. I mean, we're all working in a community setting anyway. It's just that we're behind some walls because we're in a cubicle or something. But to open that space up and to let people work side by side doesn't mean necessarily they're going to start talking to each other and not be productive. When people feel like they're part of their tribe, you can.
I love it.
After that feeling, something happens in a work environment that is tangible. It's something that it's palpable, that there's something different about the energy in the space when people don't feel like they're in timeout every time they go to their desk.
Yeah, there is a connection, right? And I think that connection facilitates a lot of other things like creativity, engagement, authenticity, and all that. Responsibility. Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so movement, and then anything else? I know you said sleep is so important.
Oh, sleep is incredibly important. Sleep
Yeah.
is one of the things. So I'm what they call, and I say they because I didn't know it was a thing until I
Uh-huh.
moved here to Los Angeles, a biohacker,
Ah,
which is, it's a term more or less of hacking biology in order
yeah,
to
I
be
like it.
right. So I have done that my whole life. I've always really thought, well, if I shift this little thing, what's my result, and how much better do I get? Sleep is one of the things that we should not be trying to hack. We have not found a way around
Not
the
sleeping.
extreme benefits of sleep by supplementation, by nutrition, by technology. There's nothing that mimics sleep for what our body needs. And we could stick on just the topic of brain health.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm convinced probably anybody of this. We are seeing so much increase in Alzheimer's and dementia, and we're really seeing the effects it's having on families and their caregivers and so on. And this is something that is starting not late in life, but 20, 30, 40 years out. And a lot of it does have to do with, are we able to flush out our brains at the end of the day? If you think of it like
Yeah.
for your brain, where all this stuff is getting stuck in there, and the only time it can be cleaned out is when you're asleep. So that's just one piece to like a very, very I guess
complex issue. Yeah.
yeah. So
And
something that we really need to get.
And I think I understand completely what you're saying, because Alzheimer's and dementia is caused by the deposit of proteins in the brain, correct? And I also have read elsewhere that when you sleep, the brain cleanses itself. So I guess it's cleaning those proteins out, right?
It's like a power washer. There's like a
Yeah,
power washer.
yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
It's all the debris of the processing of the whole day. There's debris, and so you want to wash that out. And that's just one element. But I think that also recovery, your immune system is able to do things while you're sleeping that it can't do. Your hormones, your pituitary gland, your hypothalamus, all of these different systems that are in play in order to keep the organs and the glands and the hormones balanced and level are happening while we're sleeping. And so when you don't sleep, you're really limiting your body's ability to work for you. You're preventing it from doing its job. So that, and another analogy that I use for this, which is kind of an interesting one, is like, at the end of the day, you send your child to school and they go home at night, and then the janitor service comes in at night, and they, there's all this, especially kids, right? There's toilet paper all over the floor, and there's papers everywhere. Imagine if you went 2 months in an elementary school and you just left the school open 24, and all day long there was different rotations of children coming in, using the bathrooms, using the cafeteria, using the classrooms, using the computers with dirty, sticky hands and stuff. It would be a space that's unusable within 2 months, easily, if you've never had a janitorial service. And essentially that's what's happening in our bodies, is we have to shut it down on a daily basis, let the janitor come in, clean up the next morning we can function and we can move without having to walk through, gunk, toilet paper, and whatever else would be.
And I think I heard or read somewhere that if you lose a night of sleep, it takes 40 nights to recover that one night of sleep. I love
the amount of research and study on sleep right now. It's really wonderful because it's giving us a lot of tools to rethink, is that the area that we want to try to hack, or should we leave that alone and try to find other ways to grab an extra 10, 15, 20, maybe an hour, which to me is very doable throughout the day. It's very easy to move time around during waking hours and just really keep that sleep between 6 to 8 hours ideally, and for some people maybe needs to be more, but if you can just commit that time to rest and restoration, I think it'll be a lot easier to get more effective with the time during the waking hours.
And so you think it's possible, or it's okay to move time around? So like, you know, maybe I sleep 5 hours last night and I can find an hour in the day to have a nap that would make up the 6 hours?
It does help. I do think it's still better to consolidate the time for sleep, you know, between 6 and 8. And then what I find is most people stay awake at night to accomplish something more. So they're missing sleep so that they can finish that paper, or so that they can, you know, continue their research so that they feel more prepared for the next day. So I feel like it's more about get the sleep and then move time around during the day to make sure you're getting everything accomplished, so that there's need to try to squeeze it in the middle of the night. That to me is probably the better way around it. Now, in real world, especially I know with a lot of physicians and professional attorneys, like there is going to, and I know entrepreneurs, there are all-nighters. It is just part of the deal, and you will find yourself being awake, working at 3 o'clock in the morning and not having slept yet. And under those circumstances, yes, naps are helpful. Meditation is helpful. There's a really cool science out there. It's a modality called neurofeedback, incredibly helpful at really creating neuroplasticity in the brain, and creating resiliency to stress and things like that. Those are protective mechanisms that can be added in that would be really helpful to those seasons of life where, you know what, I love it. I'm behind sleep, but it's just not a thing for me right now. And that is a reality. And so I think it's important to speak to that as well and say, you know, give yourself a little bit of grace in those moments, but do yourself and your brain a favor and get some neurofeedback involved as well, so that you are still investing in you. And when you come out of this season, you're functional enough to be able to either enjoy the fruit of it or continue moving it forward.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So sleep is so important, and regardless of where we find the time, as long as we find the time to make up for that sleep deprivation, you know, regardless of what we do, as long as we can do that. But
how to get the sleep, and then if we can't, then in these other
and hopefully we don't get to the position where we are deprived, where we have to make it up. So it's best to study. Okay, so we have nourishment, we have supplement, we have spring-fed water, we have movement, we have sleep. Are those the 5 ingredients, or are there anything else that we need to think about?
I think I touched on one of them a little bit during movement, but I think that sun, fresh air.
Yeah, the sun.
Is very, and getting our feet on the ground.
Yeah, getting out in nature.
And just really, absorbing some of those electrons, and really being able to, there's a lot of nourishment in the earth. And if anybody is lucky enough to live by the ocean, there is not a better place to dip your feet in, and just, it's like a charger for the body, for the human body. It really is the ground. I mean, it's anywhere that you live. When's the last time? Most people don't go barefoot on the ground.
And I like that. I want to ask you a little bit more about that. So I grew up when my mom would always say, put your shoes on. You don't want to walk out and have a ringworm dig into your foot, and and I say that to my 5-year-old daughter as well. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Especially when we're out in the garden and all that. Yeah.
I think that there's places to choose.
Okay.
So, it's there's one thing about, like, this would be me. I'm taking my shoes off. I'm not putting them on for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. That's just how I've always been. And I don't think about anything really. I'm not saying it's the right thing. Yeah. But that's a kind of extreme version of it. Mm-hmm. And then there's where I'm at work, or I've been working all day long, and I need to really, I just am feeling a little bit fatigued. Mm-hmm. Going outside with my slippers on or whatever, my flip-flops when I get outside, and then just take, kind of kicking them off and just standing on where there's some dirt.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a garden, not necessarily like a big open field, really any particular area other than just, some dirt, grass, something that will get on the bottom of the feet.
Yeah.
And get out in the sun, get some fresh air, and just connect to the earth. It sounds very woo-woo, but
I love it. Yeah.
Really great science coming out on grounding. It's called, if you want to research more on that, it's called grounding, and it's about just the frequencies of the body and what being on the earth does to the frequencies of the body when that's applied. So it does sound very, but I promise it's science.
I think it sounds as if it's being more tactile, right? So the more feeling that you have with skin, and this is what I'm thinking, right? The more connected you feel, right? And the more connected you feel, whether to the earth or to things around you, then what I hope is that the connection builds out to people as well.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, everything that's alive has a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an energy exchange happening at all times.
Yeah.
It's just exchange is happening.
Yeah.
What energy exchange are we exchanging for more, or are we allowing for the drainage of our energy? So on a very scientific level, it's frequency and energy exchange. And so and of course that will also evoke feelings of belonging and being connected and feeling grounded, right? There's the grounded science, but then there's also the spiritual. I feel grounded because I'm somehow, by putting my feet in the sand, I feel more like me. And why that is, I don't know, but it's just true.
Yeah, I like it. All right. So the sun and being connected to the environment, I guess, around you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's great. And for our busy listeners, could you suggest a way to bring everything together? Like, okay, so they've been at work the whole day. They come back, they're tired. They need nourishment, supplements. They know that they need water. I think it's you don't really think that much about it unless you become more mindful about getting spring-fed water. Then we need to move around. We need to get some sleep. But do you have any quick recipe ideas that a really busy lawyer coming back from work, with kids and a husband to think about, or maybe a husband who has got a wife to think about. What's some quick ideas, to put a good, healthy, nutritionist meal together for, a weekday, like a Wednesday?
Sure. So I do think that it comes from there. I'll go at two different approaches because I know that both will apply. There's the prepared approach where, let's say on the weekend when you've done the grocery shopping, you've also maybe got some produce, cleaned those veggies, maybe cut them to some extent, put them in some glass, dishes in the refrigerator, and you have, some kind of protein defrosted in the refrigerator already. Under those circumstances, one of my favorite things is a pressure cooker. I think pressure cookers are so underrated and so underutilized, and they are so fast. One thing that I love as a meal, either as a foundation of like a protein and sauce type thing, is spaghetti squash.
Yeah.
And it takes forever. Spaghetti squash takes forever, and it will feed a whole family, but it's an hour. But in the pressure cooker, it's 12 minutes.
Oh, really?
And
so your pressure cooker would be something like the Instapot, correct?
Yeah.
But okay.
There's wonderful recipes that you can find quickly And I think it really boils down to what your family is going to eat and what they like, and being a little bit prepared so that when you come in at the end of the day, it's just a matter of, oh, you have that recipe either on your phone already or next to you, next to the pressure cooker, and you know that you already have some vegetables and some protein, and so you just have to throw it in there. You know, twist the top, push the start button based on whatever instructions there are, and then spend the next 10 to 20 minutes putting your things away, getting people settled, looking at homework, playing outside until it beeps, and then you have one pot full of the veggies, the protein, and then potentially some grains or some starches that would be necessary depending on what the dish is. I think that's one way to do it if you want really fresh, immediate food. If you haven't prepared and there isn't anything that you have at home, and so you have to stop, whether it's at a restaurant or it's at a store, I think one of the best things is to really utilize those salad bars and hot food bars in the grocery store. So, and I know even if not Whole Foods, they call them Ralph's here. I know they're Kroger and other names, other places, but they have organic salad bars. Almost everybody does. And what's great about that is that all the veggies there are sliced. So you don't necessarily have to salad. What you can do is get one of the things, load up on some spinach, some sliced peppers, some tomatoes, some
carrots,
whatever it is. Take it home, throw it in a frying pan, add some eggs, call it breakfast for dinner. And it took you no time. It took you no time at all. And you're able to actually still cook. And it's great too because it's already pre-sliced. They're already cut. They're already washed. So your kids can actually help do it because there's no knives. There's no I don't have time for this. You can just, and then if they happen to be with you, let them pick because they're going to eat what they chose. There's just a thing about it where if they picked it, they're more likely, maybe not every single, more likely to eat what they've either chosen or they've helped to prepare. So anytime those little hands can get in on the game, let them do it because they will be more likely to eat and have the food that you really want them to eat anyway.
I like that. I'm going to put that into action tonight. I'm going to see what happens.
And then get very creative because let's say it's a cold day, and so you're trying to figure out what to do. Just think of it like, what is a warm veggie dish? Off the top of my head, you've got stir fry, you've got
curries,
casserole. Yes, there's so many different things that you can do with just that salad bar. It's just a matter of collecting the items, taking them home. And if you already maybe have rice in the fridge, or you know what else is really great is the packets of rice that are already cooked that's either in the freezer section or in the pouches. They have wonderful organic rices. And the cool thing about rice that's been pre-cooked, cooled, and reheated is it actually has less starch content. And it becomes a resistant starch, so it actually becomes food for your microbiome, which is so cool. So don't feel bad about having to buy pre-cooked rice. It actually has its own benefit.
I mean, growing up Asian, I would never buy pre-cooked rice. That's good to know. Wendi, thank you so much. This has been so helpful. If our audience wants to find you, where's the best place to get in touch with you?
Probably my website is the best because it's one thing that the emails come directly to me. I did that because I really like to be able to, this information is easy for me, so it doesn't take me time to just answer a quick question for somebody, and I really feel like that is it's my honor to be able to offer those services and just help reframe their food or whatever they're doing. Reach out to me on my website. It's wendimichelle.com with an I, Wendi with an I. And that's probably going to be the easiest way. I am on Instagram. And that's another route as well, but it just depends on what people are looking for.
And the links will all be in the show notes as well.
Great.
So I want to say thank you for coming on. You've given us a wealth of information, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.